Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 10 of the Journey Running Podcast. I'm your host, ultra runner and running coach, Stefan Schuster. For today's episode of the podcast, we're going to be having on Josh Iwai. I actually met Josh just last month at the finish line area of the Buckeye Marathon down in Buckeye, Arizona, which is just outside of Phoenix. It's kind of funny being an Ohio State guy. I always thought that if I ran a marathon in a town called Buckeye, it would be in Ohio. But nonetheless, kind of funny. But I'm really happy that I met Josh last month. I was really impressed with his discipline, his process-oriented mentality, and the fact that he actually has a running streak that spans over 1,000 days currently. So really impressed with this guy, and I'm really happy that both of us were able to connect and make this episode happen. But before we get started, we are going to touch on all those subjects and more, but I do just want to remind people that if you are looking for a running coach or a nutrition consultant to help you along with your training journey, with your training needs, you can find out more about myself and the Journey Run Coaching platform at journeyruncoaching.com. Over there, you can also learn more about myself and the training curriculum that I offer and my background as a running coach, too. As well as you can reach out to me at journeyrunningllc@gmail.com if you have any direct questions, thoughts, concerns about the podcast, or inquiries about coaching and such. With that said, there's a lot of really great tidbits, I think, that pertain to training, discipline, and really just life in general that people are going to be able to get out of this episode. I got to say, Josh really is a guy who has fallen in love with the process of training and more importantly learned to use training to his benefit. He's really made running a medium for himself to become a better person, and because of that I'm really excited to bring this episode to you all. So please give it up for Josh Iwai. Josh, what is your favorite number? Is 10, and this is going to be the 10th episode of the Journey Running Podcast. Can you tell me a little bit more about like how did that end up being your favorite number?
Yeah, no, absolutely, bro. That energy, our energies right off the bat when we met, dude, they clicked. And for this to be episode 10, the lucky number is 10, like it's perfect, dude. It's literally so perfect. So like how when you join like sports and stuff, they have like the last letter A is like number one, and then maybe like there's a B and that's number two. I don't know why, for some reason, bro, the eyes always just fell in that 10 range. It was either like 10, 10, 9 or 10, 11. And bro, that's how the lucky number started with 10. I just started getting like 10 over and over again. And then it just stuck. It just
Because your
stuck.
last name is EY, spelled Iwai.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
And you
So it
said
would
you
just
played
fall into that 10 slot.
baseball when you were younger?
I got a little bit of everything, dude. Like, it started out with baseball, and it was a lot of surfing too, and dabbled with like soccer and basketball. But after a while, it was, yeah, just like solely baseball, solely
Oh, that's really
baseball
cool.
for
I grew up in New Jersey. Like surfing isn't really a thing like it is on the West Coast because you're in LA, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Sorry. I should probably allow you to have a more formal introduction. Welcome, Josh, to the show. This will be episode 10, like I just mentioned. You want to start off just giving people who are listening, who might not know who you are, like a brief introduction about yourself, your background, like how you got into running, maybe. And then I
Yeah,
have like a whole bunch of questions for you because we talked quite a bit after meeting at the Buckeye Marathon in Arizona about 2 weeks ago.
yeah, most definitely. So my name is Josh Iwai. I'm 22 years young. You know, um, I mean, I really didn't consider myself a runner, dude. Like for like a really long time. Like, so if we kind of bring it back a little bit, um, I kind of during baseball practice, it would be in high school. It would be like a chore to run. Like what is it called? Like a discipline, like a punishment. So we would, if we would get in trouble, we would just be going foul pole to foul pole back and forth. And running back then, it was brutal. I hated it. I hated it because it was that punishment. So I was like, after high school, I'm never running ever again. I'm putting the shoes away. That is never happening. Like, screw running. I hate running so much. Like, but then you know, my whole family, we wanted to do the LA marathon, in 2020. So we started training for that a little bit, and that's when I got my first marathon in the books. And that's when it kind of like kickstarted everything where I was like, yo, like, okay, this is pretty fun. Um, and then 2 weeks into or 2 weeks after the marathon, I just felt myself getting lazy, dude. And the pandemic struck like that same week we ran the LA marathon. So I was like, dude, I feel myself getting complacent. I feel myself getting like lazy, like I'm not working out as much. I know I should be. So that's when I started running every single day. Um, I was like, you know what? Let's do this for like 2 weeks. Let's see if we could run every day for like 2 weeks. We'll start off with like 3 miles. And then I got there and I was like, okay, not as bad as you think. And then I was like, okay, let's do a month. So I was like, okay, another week. I was like, okay. It kept it going. And then it was like 50 days, 100 days. And then once I got to the 100 days, I'm like, yo, like this is kind of becoming a part of me now. Like I don't want to stop here. So we'll just take it year by year. And that's how I kind of started right now. So
And so now
yeah,
you're
it's
at like
pretty
1,000 days straight of running.
just over, yeah, over 1,000. In like 2 months, it will be 3 years.
Holy crap. That's insane, man. I have
Yeah,
so
dude.
many questions for you to start this off. First off, I was wondering how, like, I don't really know a lot about like the run streak, like I guess you call it niche of like the running community. Like, how does one define a run streak? Is it by time? Is it by miles? Like how do you go about defining that?
It is getting at least 1 mile in every single day. So at
Okay,
least
and does that
starting the mile. Go ahead.
mile have to be run, or can you walk the mile, or does that
It's
not count?
it's run.
Okay,
So even if it's like you gotta have a good pace to it. It's nothing crazy. It's not like your PR, but as long as you're running, you're up and at it. That's you get that mile in.
man,
You get that.
that's such a cool accomplishment. I want to come back to this in a second, but I want to, but kind of like build up to it with a few things. First off, you said you ran the LA Marathon with your entire family. So I know you mentioned before this podcast to me that you're close with your dad and your brother who push you a lot. Like how many siblings do you have? How many of you, like, did your whole entire family run the marathon? Because that's just crazy impressive.
Yeah, so I have super fortunate. I have both my parents. I have a older brother, older sister, and a younger brother. So I'm kind of like the middle younger one. Yeah. But yeah, I mean besides like my brother doing like put me on Spartan racing training, bro. That was before we even got into like the marathon, the Spartan race training. Like that, you put that on the calendar and you don't train for one, like that will put you in check real quick.
Yeah. So did you start off with like this one of the sprint ones?
Yeah, one of the sprints. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I did. It's been a few years since I've done a Spartan race. I did one, I think I did two, but both were when I was in high school. And
Okay.
they like kicked my ass because I was just this lanky runner. I wasn't like you. Didn't have the multi-sport discipline because, like, my track coach in high school, he wouldn't let me hit the gym because I was too awkward. He thought I was gonna hurt myself in the gym if I touched any of the weights. That's how bad it
That's
was,
funny.
man. So. I know those Spartan races can be pretty tough. So you started off with the sprint. Was that really where your dad and your brother started it, and then it evolved into the marathon?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's where it all started. I think honestly, I don't even think the first one was a sprint. I want to say it was the super. It was the middle one. It was like it might have been like an 8 mile one.
Okay.
Um, and but yeah, my brother was doing them, and I would watch him race, and I'm like, damn, you know what? I think I could crush this. I think I can crush this.
Yeah.
I'm watching everybody sitting on the sidelines, and I'm like, dude, I want to do this. So yeah, there's like a season two. They go to like different locations throughout the year.
Hmm.
So all the ones that were in SoCal, we were just hitting them all up. And that's where it started getting fun, dude. That's when you like, the training, the cross training combined with the running, kind of being like that perfect like hybrid athlete, being able to do both.
So how old are you when
it
you're
wa-
starting out with this stuff?
um, I want to say first year of college, so probably like 18,
Okay,
18. Yeah,
18.
right around that time.
So you're 18 years old. You're going around all these Spartan races. Like, how are you training for those?
At the school gym. They would be either like we had an indoor track, which was like 10 laps was a mile on the indoor track, or I would just go on like the treadmills. but like super fortunate. My school had like all the cross, like the TRX, the monkey bars, like a bunch of like the football pushing and all that stuff. So that like for sure was perfect for training. I would get like like the not like the sandbags, and I would just be like watching on the treadmill, and I could just see everybody look at me like, what's this guy walking on the treadmill with this sandbag for at school?
No, that's cool.
Um,
I like the purpose and the drive. Like I back when I was in middle school, I went to like the high school track one day to do a workout on my own, and I was just so one of my legs was longer at the time than the other. My doctor told me that's why I had some hip pain.
uh-huh.
This was like I was in like seventh or eighth grade. So I was like, I'm gonna go to the track, and my doctor told me to like try running opposite laps around the track. And like the high school was practicing that day, but I was like, I'm still gonna do this workout. So I like ran in jeans the opposite way around the track, like sprinting laps, like getting looked at by all these people, like, what the fuck is this kid
That's
doing?
funny.
So I get that feeling. It's funny. Um, so I just had a question that escaped me. About the Spartan races. So how did uh how did the Spartan races like eventually like evolve into that marathon though? I'm just trying to like get like a clearer like understanding because you're like 18, you're in college, you're like training for these races with your dad, your brother, but then like going from an 8 mile Spartan, which is a very athletic endeavor, to a marathon, which is more of a singular sport. It still has a lot of differences in terms of how you train for it and how you like wrap your head around that mentally. What was that process like for you?
No, no, let me, yeah, we could rewind a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And go back to the sparring training. I mean, going off of baseball, I never did any individual sport, and I felt like my work ethic and everything was up there, so I really wanted to see how I would do, like, competing with myself, how that would scale out. So that's why, like, the Spartan races were super appealing after I finished up playing baseball. It
Hmm.
was like that next, like, just perfect endeavor combined with like hard work and working out um and running everything. So I ended up doing, I think it was like 5 Spartan races in a year, like that first year, with my brother, because we're just going, as there's only so many that you could do down here. So they're kind of broken up. So we're training for those. And then, yeah, I didn't even start the running streak yet. Like this was way before the running streak. And I was just kind of like sporadically training and combined with just running, straight training. And then there was the ultra in October, dude, the 30-mile one. And I'm like, that's a challenge. That's a challenge. And it was my freshman year of college, and I was still training for it while in college and everything. And you know, um, it was kind of just like, yeah, like it's just pushing the envelope. That's really what it comes down to. I think it was around this time too where I was listening to Goggins. I was finding Goggins and stuff. And what one thing that really just like struck the soul was he talks about, like, on Joe Rogan's podcast, that if you go up to like this heaven, right? This place, right? After you pass, and they're reading off a list of things of all these accomplishments and everything like this, that this is supposed to be you, and that's not you, and that like kind of like hit my soul of like, like not living up to my full potential. I'm like, bro, like that would hurt me so much if I got up there and they were reading like all these major accomplishments, all these people you've impacted and everything, and like that just wasn't you. And I'm like, shit, like that hurts, bro. That hurts more than being complacent and like lazy. Like that's what really gets you moving. Like I feared of being that person. I was like, you know
Did
what? You
you
just
did you feel like you were getting complacent with like the shorter Spartans? Is that it?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. Yes and no. It was like those were a good challenge. Like, don't get me wrong, but I kind of got PTSD after that 30 miler from Spartan racing, because bro, I got like 4 hours of sleep that night because I was so nervous. I woke up at like, we had to drive a couple hours, so I woke up at, we had to leave by like 4:30 or something like that, and I didn't go. I was up since like 12 midnight. I went to bed early, and so I was just in my bed like contemplating. And then, oh, dude, it took like 11 hours, 15 minutes, I want to say, but the last, oh, 15
11
miles,
hours.
yeah, the last like 15 to 12 miles was me just like zombie walking, just trying to get through all the obstacles and everything, all the hills and it was bad.
The
It was
obstacles are
bad.
hard. I remember like I only did like the 5Ks when I was in high school and they were like really, and granted I wasn't in great shape at the time, but the obstacles were so densely put down on the course. It was like every like 10 feet I felt like I had to lift something heavy and my arms were just shot. Like I can't imagine going like the 50K version. Like is it still that dense in terms of how many obstacles there are out there?
Yeah, no, it's not as dense. I know what you're talking about. With those shorter races, they'll jam pack 20 obstacles within like 3.2 miles, right? 5K.
Hmm.
So this one is 30 miles and 60 obstacles.
Hmm.
So it's a little bit more spread out, but it's still like
A lot.
consistent. When there's not like a straight vertical hill like this, that it flattens out, there'll be an obstacle.
What was the hardest obstacle for you out there?
Oh, it's a combination of them all, but it's missing an obstacle. If you fail an obstacle, you got to do like 30 burpees.
Oof, that's tough.
That's the tough part because now you miss a spear throw, right? And you got to drop down and do 30 burpees. So like the sandbag carry, sure, you got to carry like what is that, like 50, 70 pound sandbag for like a quarter of a mile. There's like those things. There's rope climb, like you can climb to the top of the rope or like wire walking kind of hanging. And so it's the burpees.
The
It's the
burpees.
burpees. The burpees are,
Those
oh
damn
my, that's a
burpees.
full body effort
Oh man, that's tough. So did you do that one with your dad too?
with my brother.
With your
Yeah.
brother?
Yeah. Bless up to him because he was with me right there, like when I was zombie walking. Like,
So how'd
my,
your dad get into all this stuff too?
I mean, he's kind of the same way, just pushing the limits. So like for his birthday, he did like for his 50th birthday, he ran 58 miles. Um, yeah, and to raise money for cancer for one of my uncles, he did 100-mile walk. So when you got somebody like that pushing the limits, we would kind of think about it like doing one hard thing a year, you know. So when you got those, you can't just sit around. When you're surrounded by greatness, you want to be great too.
Yeah. Oh, I love that term greatness that you just brought up. I don't know if you've listened to some of my other episodes, but I love asking people like what their definition of greatness is. Is that a topic you've thought a lot about? Because I would love to hear like how you go about defining it in your life too.
Honestly, I haven't given it too much headspace. I don't know. I just get lost and I just need to do these things. Like this needs to happen. Like whatever I'm trying to get to, like whatever I need to do, like I need to just become that person. So like even like
Hmm.
this marathon for everybody, all you listeners that don't know, how we met was we ran the Arizona Buckeye Marathon, like Boston qualifier marathon.
Hmm.
So everybody here, even though it's a small race, like I think there was like 115 finishers, you know, like I felt that there was just like different energy of people at this race because it was so much more intentional. Everybody's trying to
Hmm.
qualify. So um everybody's going fast, everybody's like trying, like this is their PRing. We work up and to PR.
Right.
Like we don't know throughout our training, like we're not peaking every month, so we don't know where we're at. So I just felt like the energy and everything was so well there, and like everybody, people, I mean, that's how like our energies just instantly link up. So off of that, going back to like the greatness and everything, I think it's just like doing your full potential. Like even like when I talk to you, I feel like now there's even more stuff that I couldn't even see. Like this marathon was so far out of reach, like doing the sub 3, that like I couldn't even see it. Like I thought about it, like, okay, me being this person being able to run under 3 hours, but you're 9 months out and you're running 9 minute 30 miles, you know,
Yeah,
and
because you
somehow
said
I got to get,
You PR'd by like 45 minutes. Sorry to break it up. I just want to make that clear for people. You PR'd by like 45 minutes at this marathon, which is like unheard of in
yeah,
the marathon.
yeah, exactly. So like 9 months out, you're running 9:30 and you got to be under 7 minutes. And you're like, a month in, I was like, there's no way. Like, do you understand what you're telling yourself? Like, I was given that headspace for a couple of days while I was like still training, but I'm like, do you know what this is like entitling? Like, do you know the person you have to be in order to run for 26.2 miles under 7 minutes? And you're running 9:30 right now. Like, come on, come on.
So like, what do you tell yourself on a daily basis to like keep improving when your goal seems so far away at that point?
I mean, a lot of my stuff I get from Alex Hermosi. Like, Alex Mosey, he's that guy, and he just talks about, like the habits and the process over the goal itself. I think that's what kind of got me over the hump of like, even if I don't get it, I know I'm gonna suck a lot less than I do today. So what he talks about is just sucking less every day, you know,
Hmm.
which is it sounds hilarious, but if you're working on just the sucking less factor, right? Then you're not because like when you start getting doubtful about yourself or like you get scared about like setting out these far goals, you're only feeling that way because there's like a disconnect between like your goal and reality,
Hmm.
you know? So that like disconnect can sometimes like stop you from taking action. But when you're more focused on like your progress and just doing the workout every single day and not worrying about like how I'm gonna be in 9 months, like I think that's what kept me like in it for a lot of the time because I was just like, you know what? Even if I don't do it, I'm gonna be so much better of a person, and a better friend and a better son and stuff. So,
Hmm.
I that's what really keeps you going, honestly. Like not just focusing on the goal itself, because I think the goal is just like the byproduct of the work you put in, you know.
Right.
I'm sure you can attest to that too, right? It's not like a you're getting good at something when people just think of it as like a personality trait of yourself.
Yeah. No, I think it's
It's like
like, oh no, go on.
yeah, it's like you know, people think, oh, you're running every single day. You would have a sub 5:30 um 1 mile PR. You've been running you would be fit. You would run marathons. When people start talking about like that you would, it's because they've already seen all your habits. But there's a lot of work that goes into it, a lot of mental battles, a lot of physical battles that go into it. But I think that's when you start leveling up a little bit.
Yeah, just like the one step at a time kind of mentality. But it's also
Yeah, for sure.
like I look at the people put winning on a pedestal, quite literally actually they put winning like winners on a pedestal. Uh, um but like winning really I think is not the for a lot of people it is the goal, but I think that the people who are the best at what they do um, oftentimes put winning, they're like, winning is going to happen if I do all the small steps that I need to. And so it's not the focus, even though in a weird way it kind of still is. And it's the same thing for like that winning in quotes could be a sub 3 hour marathon. It could be actually winning the event. It could be a sub 5 minute or a sub 6 minute mile for whoever's out there. It's just, yeah, fall in love with the process like you're talking about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like I'm sure the guy that got first place at the marathon, he ran like a 2:46.
He is
I'm
fast.
sure
Yeah.
fast, but I'm sure he wasn't overwhelmingly blown away at his time.
I
You know?
think I'm trying to remember which one he
Oh,
was. I think I talked to him and he was like, "Yeah, I ran a PR. I wasn't expecting it."
oh
But he's
really?
pretty happy, yeah. um, but yeah, he has a lot of running experience if it's the guy I'm thinking of. I met him on like the bus on the way back to the starting line.
Oh really?
And he's trying to do like the 50 marathons in 50 states kind of thing. So
Oh,
that was
see.
kind of cool to hear about too.
This is the greatness you get like you start surrounding yourself by. Honestly, like I'm so privileged and so grateful like to be like around so many like high achieving individuals, you know? Like that even puts like more 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 things on the map that like we can achieve, we can go far beyond like even where we're at right now. So super
Would
super grateful for being around those people for sure.
if you could think of one lesson that somebody in your life, maybe it's your dad, maybe it's your brother, or your mom has like bestowed upon you, like what would that piece of advice be?
Mm.
I know it's a hard
Oh,
one.
shout out my mom. Shout out my mom too. She's like, she's the rock. She's the rock. She gets me through, all the hard times. Can't leave her out. As well as my other siblings. But one lesson, ah, dude, there's so many in
It could be
combination.
one from each of them. Up to you.
You know what I really like that I heard when I first started trading, was I heard, you don't need to have in order to be. I think we talked about this a little bit back in Arizona, but you don't need to have in order to be. I think a lot of people like we need this like quote unquote like perfect schedule, perfect life, like in order to be this kind of person that we want to be. You just got to do the things that person does and you'll have everything that person has. Like I think that is such a gem because you just got to do those things. Like there's not like the person that you're trying to be is still you. It's still you at the end of the day, you know?
Hmm.
So it's just changing like your habits, changing like little things here and there, little small decisions. And you over time doing that consistently, you'll become that person before you know it, for sure. For
Yeah, it's
sure.
like I forgot who said it. Who said that quote? Like my hero is me 10 years from now, something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
somebody said that already, and I can't remember who it was. Um, Very cool though. So
That's yeah, such a gem. Such a gem.
you're going back to your Spartan race though. That 50K was before the LA Marathon, so you technically ran an ultra marathon before you ran a marathon. I'm
Yep.
wondering, first of
Definitely.
all, do you
Definitely.
consider yourself an ultra runner because of that? And then like, doesn't that just make everything else a little bit easier?
Look, you want to hear something crazy?
What?
It wasn't probably till last year, dude. Last year, maybe around halfway through last year or 2021. Sorry, we're in the new year. But around 500. I want to say it was like 500 days in a row, or it might have been like 600 days in a row. One of my friends told me that I've never heard anybody say before. You're such a runner. And I said to myself, I was like, I'm not a runner. Like literally, I don't consider myself a runner. I didn't for like the longest time. I never even considered that. I was just like, I'm just on this mission. I'm just trying to be more consistent in my life. Like
Hmm.
this is what I'm focused on. And the running is just kind of the tool that I'm using for this, if that makes sense.
Hmm. It's like your
You know?
medium of expression for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I
Because
love that.
like we talked about, yeah, what we talked about earlier, I do like working out. Like I was working out prior to this, obviously for Spartan training and stuff like that. But running is super, super unique to where you can. It's different from weight training because at the gym, like you can lift up heavy weights, and you can kind of fake it. You have bad form, you're kind of rocking, but you're kind of like a big guy. You walk around like you're the thing, and you're lifting heavy weights or all that stuff, whatever. But running, it keeps you honest. Like if you set out on a goal to like, you want to bench X number, you're probably gonna forget about it, whatever. But running, like if you sign up for a race, you just by your results, I can tell how much you trained. Like, and that just like keep that honest system just like really stuck with me. I really like that how running keeps you super, super honest. Like you can't fake it. Like there's no faking it. It's not
Yeah,
like the training will keep you honest for sure.
I love that. How did you become so like disciplined though? Like you're 22. I mean, I was running when I was 22 and I was like doing having decent success at races and stuff, but I was definitely not as I mean, it was just not as instilled in me the way it seems to be in you. I was definitely partying a lot when I was in college. You know, did a few too many of my long runs back then, hungover, if I'm being honest. But like,
Yep.
like, where does that come from? Is it like natural, or is it really just like I'm surrounded by people who focus on the process, and I have learned to just be like, this is like I'm focusing on the process because this is how I'm going to be successful in my life.
No, that's a great question that I give a lot of headspace to. But back onto the ultra marathon. No, I
Yeah.
don't consider. Like I wouldn't consider myself like the ultra guy, you know? There's
Uh-huh.
some other guys out there doing like 50, 100 miles. You did a 240 like that. That's insane. That's insane. Um, but going back to your question about where does it come from, dude? It's a hard question. It's a good question. It's a really good
Mhm.
question. Um, but I think is, you know, super fortunate growing up to be exposed to so much. I don't know if you ever heard the saying, like, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what you don't know, right? If you don't know that somebody has done a marathon in each state, like, you just don't know, like, there's these things. So I'm just super fortunate that I got like to exposed to so much, so then I can kind of pick and choose the the route I kind of want to go down, And I think a lot of it was just like fulfillment too, you know. It's not necessarily like how we are talking about earlier. It's like a median, we at different stages of our life, I feel like we use like different tools and different medians to kind of like get more like deeper understanding of ourselves.
Yeah.
um so I think that's kind of just like I've always been somebody that has challenged like the status quo. I've always asked like so many questions, like I'm always just super super curious. And I think with the curiosity, you find out and you talk to, like, this conversation is a perfect example. You talk to some crazy people, some amazing people, and you get exposed to all this, and then you kind of just, picking and choosing on where you want. I'm super competitive too. So combine like devil's advocate with super competitive, like, bro, I'm just like trying to feed more information to me of just, how can we get better here? How can we, just not go with the standard flow of everybody, you
Right.
know, kind of
No, I love
standing
that.
out. And
I I love that a lot. Like the mission statement of like journey running, like my podcast, my coaching, everything that I'm trying to do with this is like become a better person through running. And running
yes.
for me is the medium. Like for somebody else, it might be swimming. For someone else, it might be an instrument. It might be,
Yep.
uh, I don't know, like being a teacher. It might be whatever. Like there's so many different mediums out there. Sewing.
Yes.
But um, what does like what's the success you're trying to lead up to too? Because like you talk a lot about like the process and like running's the medium to become better. Like how do you want to use like all the life lessons that you get from running in your, I guess you could say, more professional or like personal life?
It is, honestly, it's being used without even us like consciously being aware of it, because I'm a strong believer, it's how you do one thing, it's how you do most things, So I think running, like, there are so many different things that come with running, like between the mental fortitude, all the your physicality, like self-awareness, like communication skills, like execution, intention, like there's so many different things that come with running. And guess what? Business is the same way as training. Relationships, same way as training. Friendships, all that stuff is like intertwined. Those skill sets are all intertwined with each other. So I feel like it's it's kind of already happening subconsciously, consciously. Whether I know I do trading, I have a trading business and stuff like that. So, whether it's training or trading, it's the same. It's the same. The same amount of work, the same amount of intention, the same amount of execution, like the the mental fortitude, the psychology, like all relates to each other for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, when we were in Arizona, I had never heard somebody ever equate like trading to running the way that you did. Could you talk a little bit more about that for us?
Absolutely. Great topic. Great topic. I love this. I love this. So yeah, so basically trading, right? It's mostly a psychology game, right? Same with training, just how in the very beginning, right? It's very boring work, training. It's doing the same thing for a long period of time. Running, getting miles in, getting a lot of volume, having the speed workouts here and there. Um, and it's like in the very beginning how we talked about, like, it seems so far out of reach that sometimes you can get like distracted, and it can mess with your emotions of like showing up and putting in the work. And I feel like trading's the same way. It kind of, it's this mental battle with yourself of, following my system, following my plan, following my business plan, basically, which is like following my training plan. you know you got an 18-week training course. It's the same way. same thing with trading, following your trading plan, and the market moves in like waves. It kind of like breathes in and out, you know, with like smart money and just like how the algorithm work, it kind of breathe ins and out, so with trading, the trading your trading account, it doesn't necessarily just go from A to B instantly. You're not just up 20% instantly, right? Just how you're not running a sub 3 marathon instantly. It takes work. There's highs and lows when you're trading, right? There's going to be high balances in your accounts and there's going to be lows, but with a good plan, as you do it for a long enough period of time, you will become out on top, right? Just how with training, I used to say, I started recognizing, maybe it was just me like convincing myself, but when I had a really good week, everything was so good, feeling good, legs feel good. Either the next week, next workout, next following week after that, you have a not so good week, and you're kind of like, oh, I'm not at where I was at last week. I'm kind of feeling a little bit off. I'm running maybe a little bit slower. Maybe it's just my mentality. Maybe I'm running the same pace, but I don't feel as good, And so it's kind of just keeping your head down through it all, right? Through the training, through the trading, and with a long enough period of time, you come out on top.
And that's pretty cool. How
Yeah.
how what originally got you into trading? Was it running or was it something else?
Uh, I mean, if you talk to a lot of people, it's the money. It's the money aspect. Right off the gate, it's like, you I used to hear like, okay, if you're like an investor, stock market, you make a lot of money, financials, you just make a lot of money. So I was like, okay, 18, opening up a broker firm, we're gonna be wealthy here, Um, soon to find out, like that's not just the case. Like you don't just instantly just go from broke to wealthy, It's not like this overnight success, right?
Right.
Uh, so it's kind of just that same battle. It's like that same competition with the markets, that kind of just intrigued me with it. So just how like a good goal, like a good sub 3 was so far out there. Like my goal was full-time trader because I know what's possible and how much money you can make and like
Hmm.
um how much more freedom you could buy back and understanding the markets. Like if you're a competition guy and you know that like the markets are trading trillions of dollars a day and you can kind of ride that wave with them, like not that many people trade like full time, like very few, like the 1% make it through, and are profitable. But that's kind of like everything else, training to run Boston Marathon. I guarantee you it's probably pretty close to less than 1% of people that run marathons or that population in general. And then you do the Moab 240 out here, Stefan, crushing it. And that's even less than 1% of the 1% do that. So I feel like trading was super intriguing like that because I know so many people failed. And I'm like, you know what? This is a good competition. Plus there's money and there's like leverage and scalability. Like this is for me for sure.
That's cool. So you're basically like a business owner doing your trading too, and then
Yep.
you fit the running in. Like, how does time management work for you? Because can't it be like I'm in grad school right now and I make my own schedule with grad school and driving Uber to make money and training, and it's nice because you have the flexibility to make your own schedule, but it's also sometimes I think a bit hard to force yourself to fit everything into rigid structures. Otherwise, everything ends up kind of bleeding into each other. Do you have any advice
Mhm.
regarding like time management?
That's a good point. That's a really good point. I like that because, I think when I was in school, I was kind of the same way where I felt like I was so much was on the plate and I wanted to do so much. And like when you're so busy with schoolwork that, you kind of got to pick and choose your battles. And you got to see like, okay, if I was going to do a 15-mile run today, is that gonna be at the cost of me getting not as good grades? Um, but I think it's more of a feel. It's more of a feel type of thing. So how I would kind of explain it is how you kind of look at training. Got me fumbling up between training and trading. But training, I think we could be really harsh on ourselves if it's like I have to get this in, where if you kind of like pre-plan it maybe like the day before, you figure out how to make it work based on yourself. So how I kind of related to is maybe back in your earlier days when you first started training, or maybe even now, it's if you need to train that day, right? And let's say you wake up and you feel out of it. You're a little out of it. You're like, oh, I don't want to train today. In the very beginning, if you're not training for that long, like, and you don't have a lot of experience, you'll set up the day so then you don't have time to train. Because I like to train in the evenings, so
Hmm.
that you don't have time later to train, if that makes sense. So, you can kind of structure your day with, how do I usually feel, and where does it kind of just fit the mold to where training is like optimal, that I feel good about it. I still feel good about going out there running, going out there and working out, plus getting work done,
Hmm.
So I kind of just feel like you need to kind of understand, like, how do you function a little bit more? How do you feel after you've been to class all day and you train? For me, that was kind of like an out. I was like, oh, done with class, like, let's go get this good training in, right? But some people, maybe you need to get that training in the morning before you go to class, and then you can just relax after class. Or, it's kind of just like understanding yourself a little bit more. That's how I kind of set up my schedule. Like, I know, like, there's some negotiables and non-negotiables about trading.
Hmm.
Times that I can trade, how much time does it take up? What time do I need to be on the charts? So with training, there's not like any specific time you need to get it in by, as long as you get it in throughout the day. So whether it's you wake up super early and you get it in, or I used to get it in at like super late at night,
Hmm.
so it's kind of just understanding yourself and how what works best for you.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm more of a night runner myself, not a morning person
Same,
at all.
same. There's
But
not
I
many
mean,
of us. There's not many of them.
there's but like you haven't missed a day in over 3 years now. Your 1,000 plus day run streak. So you're obviously pretty good at time management and like making sure that, I mean, for you, getting your run in is a non-negotiable every day. Um, but I would think that there were probably at least one or a few days that it's been hard to get it in over the course of like over 1,000 days. I was wondering if you have any like good stories where you're like, I need to get this in today, but this is like, what was your hardest day to get it in?
That Great question. I absolutely love that question because it is not linear. I think some people just think, okay, 1,000 days, like you probably only had like, yeah, like you said, a few bad days, bro. In the very beginning, it was first like month, easy. 100 days, easy. I felt like it was easier on me. But then once you start going and extending it out, like, woo, it gets more tough. It gets more tough. But then you get over this hump. So I'll kind of back it up. So, um, yeah, in the very beginning, it was just like a non-negotiable. Like, I got it in pretty much around the same time. I had a good schedule with school and everything like that, so it's pretty easy to get 3 miles in. Um, but then life happens. Like how life happens to everybody else, and you realize real quickly that even on those tired days that you don't want to do it, you still gotta get it in. And like I'm the same way. I like running in the evenings, so I would sometimes procrastinate like hella. And when I was in school, I would sometimes go running at 11:30 because I would just wait last minute because I'm like, I don't want to do it today. I don't want to do it today, but I'm still gonna get it in. So I would wait till like 11 p.m., 10 p.m. Like, it was a battle. But some of the handful of days that stand out that have been really bad, like, I got COVID. That was kind of bad.
Ooh,
That Yeah, I was still running on that. Um, Hungover, dude. I remember, shit. We had a party and I knocked out at like, it was early. I think we had like a little danger, so I slept and bless up. I just so happened to wake up at like 11 o'clock. I didn't get my run in, and I was just so hungover same night running on the street, and it was rough. But we kind of made it out of a game too, because I lived in a house with a bunch of guys. So, I mean, one time I was already smacked up, and we would shotgun right before doing the run, and just like stuff like that, just to make it like interesting. Like, um, there
Have
was
you ever done a
that.
beer
There was,
mile?
oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. It's funny, dude. It's, but some of the days that stand out was when I knew I was kind of being like, it was being a part of me was, I think after a longer time of doing something, you can naturally just become attached to this fictitious goal, right? Like the running every single day. After doing it for 500 days, you would be like, I don't want to break this. Like it would hurt significantly if I broke and I missed a day.
Hmm.
That's how I kind of was for like the first 500 days. Like it was really a part of me. Like I would be devastated if I broke it. If I forgot one day and I just so happened to not get it in, because after doing it for so long, it literally becomes like a part of you, you know. Um, but then I was a part of like the surf and snowboard club at school, so we had this surfing and snowboarding in the same day. So we went down Huntington Beach. So we had to wake up super early, hop on a bus, Riverside to Huntington Beach, and then we surfed. It was sponsored by Red Bull. So then Red Bull took us back up to the slopes. And, I was like, okay, I'm going to just get it in after we're done. Like, it's not going to take all day. Um, and next thing you know, there was just complication after complication of issues with bus, with people. And so we didn't end up leaving the slopes until pretty late at night. I want to say it was like 9 p.m. or something like that. And we still had to get back to Huntington Beach before 12 in order for me to get my mile in. So, but on the bus ride back, I wasn't worried because if it's meant for me, if I've done everything in like my control to get like to set myself up to get it in, and it just so happens that it wasn't meant to be, like I'm not crushed. Like that's what kind of my mindset was like driving back, because I was like, we're cutting it close. Like it's gonna be within 12, like 15 minutes between when we get there maybe and like midnight. Like there's a small little gap. And I was completely okay with losing it, you know?
Yeah.
I- If it's not meant to be, like it's not meant to be.
What
But
changed your
sure
mind?
enough,
Like how did you like adopt that mentality after the 500 days? Was it that experience in particular, or were you just like accepting of the fact that like it has to end at like some point?
no, I think honestly, now that I give it more headspace, it's like having respect for yourself, you know? Like I think that's like the hardest to earn is, your own respect, because you can either do more on some days, right? When you're slacking, when you're not slacking, like you you're your biggest critique, And I think at that point I had a lot of like I showed, or I felt respect towards myself. I know what I've done, and all the work that I put in and stuff like that. Like even if I lose a day, like it's not gonna stop anything. I'll still start it back up. Like it's a lot more than just the goal itself. It's like the person you're becoming is more important than the goal. So
Hmm.
I think that like realization of me realizing, like you're gonna be okay. Like this goal is like a stepping stone. The person that you're becoming is insane. Like you never would have fathomed this before. So it's okay if you lose it. But sure enough, we got back. Dude, I gotta look at the I should have brought it up. I gotta look at the time. I must have started it at like 11:50 something, 11:53 or something, like getting it in. Like
And
I was running
sprinted.
barefoot in the parking lot, just going down like 11 something at night. And then everybody on the bus, like all the students, everybody's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I gotta get my running. And like, yeah,
That's crazy. Oh
yeah.
man, I was just like listening to a podcast the other day with have you heard of he's a San Diego guy, I think. Andy Glaze. He doesn't
Uh-uh.
have a traditional run streak in that it's like an everyday thing, but he has like a run streak going where he's running like 100 miles a week, and he's been doing that for like 3 years now or something. I think
Oh
he's
my
like
God.
150 weeks or somewhere around there. But he was talking in the podcast. That's why it's really crazy to hear your answer. It's so similar to what he said, which is like I can't let this define me because like this is eventually going to end whether it's in my control or not. And like if I let it define me, then when it ends, I'm inevitably a failure, and like that's not
Yes.
true. Like
Yeah.
And so obviously, like learning how to not let that define you is, I'm sure that's not easy. Like I can't imagine. I've never had something like a streak that long. Like that's years and years and years, and then I can't imagine how it would feel to end it. Even like saying like it's gonna end one day and then it actually ending is like I'm sure it's got to be a bit emotional.
Hmm. Yeah. But it's like, I don't know if you ever heard the saying, like, um, connected to everything but attached to nothing. I feel like that like really represents that, you know. I think, you know, what you go in for it is different than how you become coming out of it after you've done it and stuff like that. Um, so you know, the goal was never these days, like never the days. I never even fathomed like running for 2 weeks straight. I never had the even the slightest thought of like I'm gonna go 1,000 days, like I'm gonna go 3 years. Like no, like that was so far out of like not even in the light, wasn't even thinking about it, not even a like a ambition of mine or anything. But yeah, like you know, I started to look at my training differently. Like it's a privilege. Like I get to do this instead of I gotta. You know, when you're kind of in that like I have to, it's like there's already a negative connotation with it. You know, but when you're like I get to do this, I get to go out there and run, and you know, we have the privilege to doing it every single day. So when you kind of look at that from that aspect, I feel like you know you just look at training different.
Yeah, they say I think they say like gratitude is like the number one predictor of happiness.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it for sure, definitely. Um, yeah, dude, it has been wild journey, wild journey. I'm
And
sure
you
you can
said like
contest to the same thing.
you got like reached out to by Hello Good. That's his name, right? I've heard of
Oh,
him.
hella
I
good.
haven't. Yeah, you said he reached out to you?
Dude, absolute stud, role model of a runner. I got the running every single day idea from him. Like he's already been running. At the time he was running for like 3 years or something like that. He was on his, I want to say like 1,000 days, and I was like, yo, that is insanely impressive. And then once you start diving into it, dude, it's crazy how your mind just starts opening up to all these other different scenarios, right? You would think, okay, he is the longest streak I know. He's been going on for like 5 years now. This other girl reached out to me. She was going on for like 8 years. And I was like, what? Then check this out. She said, there's a running everyday streak website that I started. It's like called like Daily Run. I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Daily Run Streaker, something like that. And I checked. And the longest streak a male person is currently doing right now, 55 years.
Oof, that's crazy.
So you think the 1 2 year, everybody looks at it like, oh, it's impressive, stuff like that. 55 years. Not even in this century. Before last century, they're still running every single day. Like,
That's like
that's
double my age.
insane. That's insane. You know, so, you know, is your situation really that hard right now? Or, you know, are we just kind of like, uh, I like to say pulling out of the bag of 10,000 excuses. Like, which one are we going to use today? You know, which one are we going to
Uh,
use today?
that's funny. I'm a big Seinfeld fan. I'm thinking of the episode where Jerry has this list of excuses to not hang out with this guy who keeps calling him. He's like, okay, what am I using today?
Yeah. That's funny because, you know, I know you can contest to this because everybody's human, you know, but it's, it's the slightest bit decision that makes you step into that next conversation of being great. It's like when everybody else is saying the opposite, like even in those rough times, like I know like there's been some days where like it doesn't look like I'm gonna be able to fit it in, but I get it. I make it work. You know, whether it's like super exhausted from work or whether I'm just tired, hungover, you know, wedding parties, whatever, you know, life happens, you know. Um, you can always come back to like it's crazy. It's crazy. It's
Amazing.
crazy. Yeah.
What
That's can you contest to that? That slight little decision, like of like, you know what? I'm still gonna do it anyways. Like you just do that over enough times, and now you're getting in more reps than everybody else.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm a really big fan of like, I mean, I like having events on the calendar. I will say I'm like most motivated when I do. I think it's something that like everybody. I know Joe DeCina at Spartan talks a lot about this. Like, sign up for something because then in the back of your mind, you know, like you're either going to show up prepared or unprepared. And to me,
Absolutely.
that's really important. And then from there, I try to like put the goal of the race on like just on like the back burner and focus on the training. But I think like the small decision of just throwing something on the calendar is something that's really tangible. And I think it's something that almost everybody can really do. Like
Yeah.
nothing that small decision like is just so easy to implement in everybody's lives if they wanted to. It doesn't have to be a
Yeah.
marathon or a half marathon. It could just be a 5K if people are just starting out. Hell, it could just be
Absolutely.
like, I want to run 1 full mile by the end of the month. Cool. You
Yep.
run around the block quarter mile every day to build up to that then.
No, absolutely. That's how it starts. That's literally getting yourself like to be in that good flow state to where it's not as much of a hassle. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of cold turkeyed it. I did, I was running sporadically, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
today is the day that it starts.
Do
You
you
know, um,
do you have like a daily
but
mantra?
not really, not really.
Okay. I was just wondering.
Um, but in order to work, if you want to ease into it, for sure, like the race, I think you know, fear is something super interesting. Like fear on how it gets you to move, you know? And I think the reason why you start moving when you put it on the calendar is because if you've done a race that you didn't prepare for, you don't want to get that feeling again.
Yeah. I
That
mean, fear
that's
is great. Fear is great because I think a term that is overused in society is bravery. And I think a lot of people think like, oh, what you did is brave. And it depends on the person or the situation. Somebody can only be brave if they were first afraid.
mm-hmm.
So it's
Mm,
important to remember
mm.
that.
Great point. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why honestly, to be honest with you, like this last race, I was super nervous for it. I
That's
was
good.
super, super nervous.
Means it matters to you.
Yeah, because I was like, I know you've been in that pain cave. That pain cave. David Goggins talks about that pain cave, that like that deepest part with yourself, that darkest point, those darkest hours, like, and that looking back at it, like in hindsight, that's a scary place. Like, it is a scary place. And I was nervous about this race because I was scared of the pain cave. I was like, dude, I have the date with the devil on Saturday. Like, I worked all this time, all this training, and I'm really gonna be tested this weekend. And I
Yeah,
know
but
I'm gonna
that's the
enter that.
best part.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
then it
best
ends up being
part.
the best.
Everyone, so here's one of my my pieces of advice to people when they're training for a race is like everyone when the second they sign up for something, they're like they start dreaming and they're dreaming about the finish line and they're like dreaming about like the medal being put around their neck and they're dreaming about like the Instagram post they're going to get to put out when it's all over. Um,
Uh-huh.
but like what really people should be dreaming of is like thinking about what is it going to be like when I hit mile like 21 of the marathon, or what is like where am I going to be at mile like 80 in like a trail ultra in the mountains. Like it's going to be dark out, it's going to be like 4 a.m., you're going to be up for 24 plus hours at that time, you're going to be
Yep.
cold, you're going to be hungry and want to go home. um and so like that's really where people should put themselves, I think, when they're training and getting ready for something, because if you can, the more you can do that, the more prepared you're going to be when the moment actually comes. Because it's like, okay, well, it's here now. And yeah, it's going to be more painful than when it was when you were laying in bed thinking about what the moment was like. But at least you can think about, like, while you were training, what did I tell myself I was going to do when I hit this point? And so, like,
Yeah.
that's where the magic happens.
Absolutely. That's a great point. I was nervous because I didn't enter the pain cave enough during training. I think that's what even exactly what you're talking about, right? When you're putting in your workouts and you're kind of like thinking like, okay, if it sucks more now, it's gonna suck less later. Like if I put more work in now, if I work harder, if I, on my recovery, on my stretch and everything, then I'm gonna set myself up to perform better later. And maybe the pain cave will happen later on down the line or minuscule, you know.
Yeah.
Um, great point, great point.
So as you build your pain cave deeper and deeper, how how are you going to do that in the future? Like, what kind of events are you looking to put on your calendar?
Oh, so many, bro. I want to for sure do a 50 miler, 100 miler. Not gonna lie, dude. I was like, why did you plant that 240 Moab seed in my brain? I've been thinking about that ever since. I'm like, yo, I think that is something down the line that's definitely in the books.
Hey, I love to hear it.
Yeah. But also I wanna go on the hybrid side too. I wanna do an Ironman for sure. It's a little bit more expensive, with all the gear and everything, but I think that is something that's like the hybrid championship,
Yeah.
you
So
know?
as 2023, like we're recording this Friday, January 20th at 3:09 p.m. on Mountain Time, at least.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
if you expected a few events to be on your calendar this year, like are there any specific ones that you're looking at?
Like nothing specifically, but definitely I still want the sub 3,
The
you
sub
know?
three?
So, yeah, I told myself I'm gonna go through this like a 5-week recovery training
Hmm.
plan that the book I'm following, and you know, I wanted the sub 3 more than the Boston. So I still that's like still highly on the list is getting that sub 3,
Hmm.
you know? Um Besides that though, I wanna mix in some lower races, just because the legs are so strong. Like I kind of want to see how I would do on a 5K, 10K, 15K, 20K, like half marathon. Like
Yeah,
I think we could push some limits.
I like
So
it. So the marathon is the immediate goal, like getting that sub three. Um, and then it seems like after that, maybe like the Ironman 50 mile, 100 mile, and then maybe Moab a little bit down the road. It'll be sooner than you
absolutely.
think.
It might be. We might be recapping in a couple years. Like, oh, you remember when you did that Moab? You didn't even think about doing it.
I didn't think I was going to do it as early on in my running career as I did. I did it
Oh,
in 2021. It's an October race. So I had been ultra running for. I had my first 50 miler in 2018, but 2019 is really when I started upping the training. So that's 2019 to 2020 to 2021. I mean, it was really only like 2.5 years of ultra running, but it was like that was a pretty serious like 2.5, 3 years to get to that point. Still, I thought I did it a little early on, but I don't know. There's a great book out there. If you sound like you like reading and stuff. Training for Ultra has a great book. I think it's just called Training for Ultra by Rob Steger. He's got an Instagram too. I don't know how much he's been running lately, just because I haven't seen him post as much lately. But he has a really great series on like Amazon called like Running the Triple Crown. So he's running like the three 200-mile races that Destination Trail puts on, and then his book Training for Ultra is really what got me to sign up for Moab when I didn't feel like maybe I was ready yet, because I saw his journey and I was like, this guy did it so quickly, like why can't I?
that's fire. That's fire.
Yeah.
I was looking it up. It's Training for Ultra is the book. Training
Uh-huh.
for the Ultra. And then you said the other one,
Yeah, Running the Triple Crown is on Amazon.
Triple
Even if you don't
Crown.
have
Nice.
Amazon, I don't have the Prime Video thing, so I think I just paid like $1 an episode or whatever. Like there's like 6 episodes.
Oh, I see it. I see it. Yes, yes, yes. I
Yeah,
found it.
really good stuff. You'll love that.
Okay, so going back to the 240, right?
Uh-huh.
How many miles did it start at per week? And what were you kind of like peaking at? And then how long, over what period of time did you do that for?
Yeah, my training.
Yeah.
So I'll answer that in two ways, actually. Also, I know we're coming up on like an hour of talking here, so I'll try to be more a little bit respectful of your time and finish this up with you soon. But to answer your question, because I'm also going to be running Moab again this year, so I'll answer the question is how did I train in 2021, and then how am I going to train this time? So in
Yes.
2021, I'm a low mileage guy. Like
Uh-huh.
there's a lot of people out there who are running way more miles than me per week, like 80, 100, 120 plus miles a week. And like I have a lot of respect for that. That's just not me. Um, I run 5 to 6 days a week, and I haven't, knock on wood, haven't been injured really in like 3 or 4 years. So I think that the rest days work really well for me personally. And my training usually starts off, I mean, at the beginning of every year, I start just like everybody else. I start with like 15-mile weeks, 20-mile weeks, 25-mile weeks, 30, 35. And then like I'm a very patient man. I'm extremely patient. I know that my 1 mile run in January, maybe not 1 mile, but I know my 3 mile runs in January are going to build up to 25-mile long runs like twice a week in June. So my training will start pretty low. And granted, I've been running for 15 years now. So I kind of like, if you're a new runner, I usually say go with the 20% rule. So you run 20 miles this week, run like 20, would be 24 miles the next week. Because of my experience, I can kind of bypass that a little bit as other people can too. So like I'll build relatively quickly these days and it'll go up to last year I peaked around 70 when I was training for Moab 240. In 2021 it peaked around 70. But that's not just like 70 miles of like running around the neighborhood, right? Uh that was like 25 miles on Saturday was like running I did a lot of loops in Colorado, like a lot of 25, 30-mile loops that had like 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 feet of gain in there. So it's like long, slow days. Like I was out there for 12 hours at a time, 13 hours at a time, like just not just focusing on miles and speed, but focusing on like the time of my feet, which becomes really important as you train for like a 100-miler, especially 200-miler when you're about to be on your feet for 4.5 days. You better be okay putting in like 12 hours on your feet here and there. So I would do probably like 2 long runs a week, maybe a 25-miler and then like a 20-miler and then another 3 runs of like 10 miles. What, that's like a 75-mile week. So it would be something about that. Um, what the biggest thing I'm going to change going into Moab this time is going to be that in 2022, I have a good friend, my friend Dave, who's been on Bronlick, who's been on this podcast before. He talked a lot about through hiking. He's a good friend of mine. He got me into through hiking this year, and so I really learned the value of going slow to go fast. And so now when I look at like a race like Moab, I actually think that if you are really trying to place highly, unless you're a professional runner with like the ability to go knock out long days every single day, like because you're sponsored and that's your literal job, really. I think that it's worthwhile for myself and other people to try and take like a week about maybe 4 to 8 weeks out from the race to go on like a through hike. Um, I this year I did, or in 2022 I did like the Tahoe Rim Trail, 175 miles, and then I didn't finish it, but I got 300 miles done of the Colorado Trail, and I did both of those hikes about a month out from a 100-miler, and I ran my two best 100-milers of my running career, and I don't think that was a coincidence. So as I prepare for
Oh
Moab
wow.
this year, I'll definitely be I'm definitely going to try my hardest to fit like a week of hiking in, maybe 4 to 6 weeks out from the race. And then I'm going to keep everything else like the running the same. If I can hit like 70, 75 miles a week, like of running, like leading up to the race, plus that hiking, then I'll have like a lot of miles and a lot of, uh, I'll just have a lot of like, those muscles, tendons, ligaments that like you don't like go to the gym and work on, like will be worked out just by doing like the variety of running, walking, like pack on the back kind of thing when you're hiking. So that's my plan going into this
Absolutely.
year.
I don't think how many people realize how many factors just went in. You made it sound so easy, you know, so easy, like a little breeze, walk in the park, give it some time, we'll get there. But there's so many beliefs and limiting beliefs that you just crush through, like how you talk about patience. So key, being patient with yourself and having the confidence and that experience to know that I'm gonna progress as I put more time in, as I put more miles in. I'm just gonna get there, you know? And so you kind of just break down that belief already that like, this thing seems so far out, right? Because you've already done it before. You can see how your body changes given what you do, how much time you give your body, you progress. So like that's insane, insane. Combine that with the foundation of your running history and to be able to not only run like the trail race 100 mile before your actual race weeks weeks before. Like, that recovery aspect is insane. It's insane. It's because you're already getting your legs used to it, and you're already putting the miles and all the work in that, your recovery is so much quicker because your body's just like, yeah, this is what
Yeah,
we
it's
do.
true. I think like there's something to be said for like putting an ultra on the calendar, like not too far out from like still giving yourself enough time to recover. But like I think I mean like that's what training is. Like you're destroying yourself with a workout so that your body can recover and build stronger like for the next one. And if you can get like a 50K in before a 50 miler or a 50 miler in before a 100 miler or a 100 in before a 200, you're going to do the same thing. You just need a little more time. It's not like you're going to go to the gym today and 3 days later you'll be stronger, right? Like if you're running 50 or 100 miles, you got to give your body like a little bit of time before you start
Yeah,
training for the next one. But I think it still works that way. Yeah.
dude, insane. That's incredible, honestly. Like that recovery time is sheesh. So
Well,
then
I mean, the
the last
more
go ahead, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say like the more people do it, the quicker your recovery time becomes. I mean, when I ran my first marathons at 19, I ran my first one at 19, second one at 20, and third one at 20. Yeah, 21. It was like one a year for a while, but like after all those races, I was like laid out for like a while, like at least
Yeah.
like 2 to 4 weeks. Um, and like, I mean, after what Buckeye Marathon, I was running again like 3 days later. It's just, I mean, I can run like 3 days after a 100 miler now. Like it's just, and my first 100 took me a month to recover from. My second one took me a month to recover from. But now it's like 3 to 7 days. Like, all right, like we can go do what we like again, and like you're mostly fine. So it's,
Sheesh.
but I mean, you have to build to that, you know?
Yeah. How much do you think it impacts being in Colorado and being in the altitude and the cold? Like, what kind of effects does that have on your running, on kind of everything?
So I think the altitude definitely was helpful in Arizona. That was the first time I felt like it ever really helped me at a race. I For like other mountain races, like ultras are so um like you're running at a slow pace for a long period of time and like you're never really breathing that hard, right? So I never really felt the benefit as much as I did with this race because the marathon is like it's such high intensity, right? And I think I just felt it more. In terms of so I guess to answer that question in like one sentence, it would be the higher the intensity, the greater the impact I think altitude training will have for you. Um, but when it comes to like the cold, I don't think the cold is always the most helpful. Like last year I ran like I trained all winter and then I went to Utah and I ran the Zion 100 and it was like 90 degrees and in like April and I just wasn't my body wasn't ready for that and I had a lot of GI problems and I got dehydrated and it's just something that I mean I guess I could have gone to a steam room but like we caught the 190-degree day that they have in like in April so just wasn't
Yeesh.
really prepared for that. Yeah, I don't know if the cold is always helpful.
Interesting. That's super, super interesting. Because I
Yeah.
was thinking right off the bat, like, how do you even do fast track workouts if, I mean, maybe the track's not even there, it's covered,
Uh-huh.
like, are you running the streets and like, you're
Oh,
running obviously heavier shoes, right? You're the trail shoes, like, there's so many facets to it.
yeah. I mean, for the marathon, I tried to hit the track here and there, but it was always closed when I tried going. So a lot of my
Mm,
workouts were sustained like 6, 8, 10, 13, 15 mile like long runs. I think those were the distances I built up to when I was training for Buckeye Marathon. Um, but I mean, yeah, otherwise I think I like went to one of the local parks and I would just do like just checking the watch, like, all right, are we another 800 meters down and then high intensity to low? I think like doing that stuff is also good for a marathon in particular. You don't really have to do that for ultras. Um, I mean, you do if you want to be like fast and competitive, but you don't have to hit like your highest threshold. Um, in an ultra like you do for a marathon. For an ultra, you can get, I don't want to say get away with, but it's like, like sprinting at full speed is not going to make you a better ultra runner. But like going to the park and doing mile and a half reps at like 80, 90% of your VO2 max, like that's still going to help you because like a mile and a half rep, 3 mile rep, like those are going to make you good in an ultra because you're in a long race as opposed to like a 400-meter dash is not going to work in an ultra.
Yeah, absolutely. You're training for two different races. The
Yeah,
ultra, you're trying to go the distance,
right.
and the marathon, it's as funny as it sounds, it's a short enough race to train for speed.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. The
Yeah,
marathon, there's the famous Karl Meltzer quote, which is 100 miles is not that far. And so I'm not throwing shade at the marathon, but like once you've run 100, you can kind of compartmentalize the race a lot easier than you can if a marathon is the farthest that you've ever run, because then you're like, well, this is the farthest I've ever run. So it just feels a lot bigger when it is that way.
absolutely. Probably on the mental side of
Yeah.
things of just knowing I'm doing a quarter of what I've done before, and the actual the race itself. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
for
it doesn't
sure.
make it easy. I'll tell people, I just want to like reiterate this for people. Like the marathon, I think is still the hardest event to really like nail down. Like it's just the perfect combination of endurance and speed, and it's just such a difficult event because of that to do like perfectly well. Yeah, really, really tough
Absolutely.
event.
I mean, I can't speak on the no 240,
Hey, give it a few
but
years. But
yeah,
um, just for time purposes, we're coming up on like an hour and a half, and I do want to be respectful of your time, Josh. Before we wrap up here, I have what do I have here? I have two more questions I think for you. Is that okay?
yeah, fire away, fire
Cool.
away.
Okay, so if we're gonna end, I was wondering, what is one piece of advice you want to leave everybody with today before we finish up? It could be anything that you've said or haven't said here already.
Ah, ooh, great question, great question. I really like what you talk about with the patience. Like patience is so key, and I think it's built up over time, but one of I mean, there's so much. Um, focus more on the habits more than anything. I think it's not accidental when I think we can kind of like give off the notion of just like winning is this thing, yeah, like you talk about, like that we put on a pedestal. But in reality, it's the work that you put in. It's just the byproduct is the winning. And I think the goals, because they always talk about like you can always once you get somewhere, you just move the goalpost even further.
Hmm.
So with knowing that, it's more about, today, what am I doing today? What are the habits and things I'm kind of focusing and giving my attention on today? Because that built up over a long period of time compounds to extraordinary things that we can't even see right now. For sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. Before we go, I also want to commend you. Like, you have so much patience and discipline for, especially like your age. I think like I know it's weird to say, like I look back at like 22-year-old me, and I was like so much more immature than I am now. And like you're so far ahead, like you're light years ahead of like where so many people your age are. I know we're only 5 years apart, but like having lived the last 5 years that I've lived, I'm like, wow, it is a long time. So I want to like compliment you for just how like you have like done such a like natural and like impressive job of like falling in love with the process. I think that's what really stands out to me about you, like having our like conversation today. Like you're a guy who's like fallen in love with the process, like you're disciplined, like you're patient. You're like obviously a hard worker, and like I'm really excited to see what these next few years like have in store for you. Like athletically
Oh,
and
I appreciate
professionally. I hope you to see you at Moab one of these years. Maybe we'll be starting together.
Yeah, no, hey, I appreciate you so much, dude. Like for real. I'm so grateful, dude. Like I truly am grateful for, everybody that I've talked to, everybody that I've encountered, like crazy people that are part of my life, and you know, just grateful, dude. Because I literally couldn't be here if I wasn't like curious, and um, it's you make a lot of your own luck. It's just it's very grateful, dude. Very grateful.
And
Yeah.
Josh, if people want to keep up with you and keep up with your adventures, um, are there any like social media platforms that you would recommend people like follow you on?
Yeah, they can check me out on Instagram. It's my last name IWAI_10. Um, but yeah, dude, no, I appreciate you so much. It's There's just levels to it, and I'm blessed that I started out at the level that I did.
Yeah.
And I think hopefully just by what we're doing here and just sharing the process, sharing the journey, I hope to um, inspire other people to reach and achieve goals that they didn't even think were possible, you know? Because the amount of like joy and the person you become it's incredible. It really is. So, you know, that's so grateful. Thank you, sir.
No, thank you so much for being here. I might have to title this episode "Fall in Love with the Process" with Josh.
Love it, love it, love it, love it.
All right, I'm gonna click stop recording in a second, but no, thank you so much for being on here, man.
No, I appreciate
Uh,
you. I appreciate you.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Journey Running Podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please do make sure to like, rate, and subscribe to the show. As always, if you are looking for a running coach or a nutrition consultant, please do feel free to reach out to myself directly at journeyrunningllc@gmail.com. Also, you can find out more information about myself and the training curriculum that I offer at journeyruncoaching.com. But thank you all for listening, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.